Hey everybody, it's Flaco here. I just finished another new digital art piece, and today I'm going to show you how the development of that went. First, I'll show you the finished piece, and then I'll show you how I got there. Here is the finished work. I call it Snapshot. It is a portrait of a guy casually bringing up a camera to his eye to take a quick picture. Now we'll go back to my initial sketch. This is generally what all my work looks like when I first start. I'm just sketching super fast. It's very messy, very loose. Basically what happened here is the idea had just popped into my head and I'm just trying to get the basic overall concept laid out. I'm taking what is in my brain and bringing it into reality. When you're first starting a piece, you don't want to worry about specifics like perfect proportions or fine details. It's just about getting your general idea onto your canvas. Next up, I'm now really getting into refinement of what I started in that initial sketching stage. This is a lot of working on proportions, scale, and getting some finer details into place. The hand position on the camera was a big challenge, definitely the hardest part of this piece. When you're holding a camera, your hand is in a pretty awkward position. You have this kind of claw thing going on. It's not very natural. Every artist knows that drawing hands is always a struggle, especially in more unique situations like this. I knew this was going to be hard, which actually kind of drove me to do this piece more because I've been trying to find different ways to challenge myself in my art. Getting the scale and proportions of the actual camera was also pretty difficult. As you can see in the first sketch, it was originally way too big. It was taking up his whole face. To get it right, I referenced pictures online of vintage filmed SLR cameras and people holding up cameras to their face. I even took my own camera and looked at myself in the mirror and tried to mimic the pose that I have going on in the drawing. Everything other than that was a little bit easier. The whole head area was a little too big, so I slimmed that down. I toned the hair down. I added the mouth. The body was mostly good. Just refining some lines and angles here and there, and adding a few details. This stage generally requires the most work from me, and it takes up the longest amount of time, but by the end, you get a much clearer idea of how the piece is going to look. The next step is pretty simple. I just make a new layer and trace over with ink all the lines that I previously worked out with pencil. The pencil layer is definitely a lot better than when I first started, but it's still kind of messy. So here, I'm just making everything nice and clean and neat. Basically, so when it's time to color, that just drops in there really easy. After that, I am continuing with the pen and refining those lines even further. I'm adding a few details here and there in his hand, lips, the shirt, and the camera. I'm also working on varying line thickness and definition. Rather than having one uniform line thickness, I think having more variation gives it more weight and makes it easier for the different aspects of the piece to stand out from each other. Now that the lines are all set, we can get on to color. This is all just the flat base color. I'm just picking colors that I like and making a fill in between my lines. I like the coloring that I did with the lens of the camera. I drew in 3 different shades of gray in a kind of arc shape, and I think that was able to give it a nice round look, like how a camera lens should be. Next up, we are on to shading. I'm still basically just doing one layer for shading. Very simple. I just take what is in the base color and then drop it down a few shades darker to add in some shadows. I don't think I'm great at shading, but I think I'm getting better every time I do it. Overall, I think it works and looks natural. I especially think the shading I did in the shirt looks pretty good, making it seem like the cloth is folding in on itself a little bit. Again, I don't do a lot for shading, but I think what's there goes a long way to make the character pop more and to feel a lot less flat. And lastly, I add in the background. I do think that what I did here is kind of a cheat. I just took a photo, which I did take myself, and dropped it in behind everything. I'm not very good at drawing or coming up with ideas for backgrounds, so I figured this could be a way for me to get around that for now until I can get better at it. I did edit the picture a little bit. After I imported it, I dropped the brightness down some and then added some blur to give it a kind of bokeh effect, like what you would see when you take portraits with a DSLR camera. I like how it turned out, and I definitely think it looks a lot better than if I would have tried to draw something. I take pictures pretty frequently of just random things that I think look cool, but I don't really do anything with them, so this might be a way that I can use them in a creative context. Alright, that is it for this digital art piece and how I made it. Again, it was called Snapshot. I hope you like how it came out and seeing how I got there. I also hope that by showing a little bit of my thought and work process, I can possibly help you other artists out there, maybe get some new ideas or think about your own work a little different. If you have any thoughts or input, definitely let me know in the comments. To see more of my work, definitely subscribe to the channel, check out my website, Tumblr, and Instagram, all linked down in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.